part that I get emotional because I really loved your children. They were all so sweet. They would come in and I watched them over time grow up and get married. And I'll tell you, I felt like the black sheep, no pun intended. I felt like the black sheep aunt that got blocked out of the family.
Welcome back to my channel. Today, it's time to talk about Tell-All Gate, the drama, the issues, and the mysteries surrounding the sister wives tell-alls. Now, during the off-season last year, Kody Brown Padron shared something pretty eye-opening on her Patreon. She told people that the family, specifically Kody, had the power to fire tell-all hosts. Yep, according to her, if a host asked a question that made someone uncomfortable or if Kody didn't like them, that host could be gone. Just like that. That's why you've seen so many different hosts over the years. And that's also why you never saw Natalie Morales again after her interview with Kody and the rest of the crew, which took place right after they released their book Becoming Sister Wives. That particular tell-all? You can't even find it anymore. TLC scrub it clean.
Why?
Well, in that tell-all, they actually confronted Kody over Nacho Gate, where he shamed Christine about nachos. Natalie also called Kody out directly for being a womanizer, based on his own words from the book. Some hosts did better than others, sure, but Natalie never returned after that moment. Now, Tamron Hall was one of the more consistent hosts over the years, and honestly, I liked her. She's kind, empathetic, curious, and she's got a real sense of justice. You can tell she genuinely cares about how people are treated. She always seemed to sense that things weren't quite as they appeared, especially when it came to Kody. Tamron appeared in the tell-all for season 9, and that one, a lot happened. First off, that was when the divorce between Meri and Kody became public. Everyone finally found out they were no longer married. Then, we saw Kody and Robyn clash with her ex over the adoption of her children from her previous marriage. And just before they filmed that tell-all, it came out that Meri had been catfished. A woman pretending to be a man had recorded voicemails, leaked emails, and shared photos. It was humiliating for Meri. She'd grown up in a pretty sheltered environment, and suddenly she was thrust into the wider world of internet fame and manipulation. It's easy to see how she might have been vulnerable to that kind of situation. So during that tell-all, several issues came up that, I would assume, made Kody extremely uncomfortable and revealed things he likely didn't want made public. For example, Christine and Kody had gone to therapy that season. They traveled to Galveston, Texas, and their relationship was clearly very fractured. Christine talked about jealousy. It was incredibly uncomfortable to watch. Tamron even asked Kody directly if he felt like a failure, because clearly people's needs were not being met. Tamron also brought up the catfishing situation with Meri. And it was revealed during that conversation that Meri and Kody were basically estranged by that point. Tamron asked Meri what was missing in her life that led her to go looking elsewhere for connection. I think Tamron was genuinely trying to figure out if Meri was happy, if she wanted out, if she was actively seeking an exit. And Meri made some big comments during that tell-all. She shared how, when people found out about her divorce from Kody, they praised her. People were cheering her on, celebrating her freedom, finally free from Kody. Now, I don't think Tamron ever outright disapproved of their lifestyle, but she definitely seemed to understand that these women weren't happy. She could see through the illusion. She could see through Kody's facade. And she always did it respectfully, but she still held Kody accountable and pushed him to admit things. The whole point of the show was that the family was supposed to be honest, and in that tell-all, Tamron really exposed the fact that they hadn't been. She confronted them about jealousy, Kody's so-called schedule, whether or not he abandoned Meri after the divorce, and maybe even whether that contributed to her being catfished. The episode ended with Meri visibly upset and Kody too. Not because of Tamron necessarily, just because the entire conversation was so raw and uncomfortable. And after that, Tamron was never seen again. For years, apparently, Tamron didn't understand why she'd been cut off. But she's actually making a return appearance today. In a preview I showed you earlier, she talks about how it felt to be shunned by the family. She said that after hosting the reunion show for years, after having them on her show, it was like she was suddenly blocked. Shut out. The black sheep. Nobody in the family would even speak to her anymore. And just today on her Instagram, Tamron shared even more details about her interview with Meri. 2 exclusives, in fact, and one of them really hits close to her heart. She said, "Many years, I hosted the Sister Wives reunion show. Then suddenly, I no longer hosted the show. After years of asking her to come on this show, Meri Brown says she is ready. And not only is she ready to talk with me about the Sister Wives reunion, she's ready to talk about why she's finally decided to end her marriage with Kody Brown." Did you catch that? Tamron said suddenly, "I was no longer the host." Meaning, she didn't even see it coming. She was fired. Right now, the show has a new host, Suki, who's been around for, 4 or 5 seasons now. But even Suki could be let go if she asks the wrong question or upsets Kody. According to Michael T., it can happen that easily. Tamron's been trying to get Meri on her show for years, but Meri always declined until now. And when I said a few days ago that Meri was on her revenge tour, this is what I meant. Now, I don't know Tamron personally, and I don't know exactly what happened here. But I do know that other people who were in a similar position, family, friends, outsiders who cared about the women, were also shunned. People who offered support or tried to help the women get out of what they felt was an oppressive and abusive environment were suddenly cut off. Blocked. If someone got close enough to realize something wasn't right, if they offered resources, encouragement, or simply asked the wrong questions, and if Kody found out, boom, that person would be ghosted. Gone. Their presence wiped from social media, from the family's lives. It's like if someone uncovered a truth that threatened the family's carefully crafted narrative on the show, they were automatically considered unsafe. And honestly, I'm sure this was painful for Tamron, because she wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She genuinely cared. That final tell-all was really just her asking thoughtful, pointed questions to Meri about what she was going through. It came after the divorce, after the catfishing scandal, after Kody and Robyn got married and adopted the kids. Tamron could tell the family dynamic had changed. Forever. There was no going back. She saw the writing on the wall, and I think she tried to offer Meri some hope. But here's the thing. Anyone who encourages the women to leave, or who questions the polygamous lifestyle, or who even suggests that they don't have to stay in unhappy marriages, those people are considered a threat. And so, in the preview clip that Tamron shared, she said she was blocked. Blocked, like completely cut off. She would watch the kids get married. She'd see everything unfolding in their lives, and she genuinely enjoyed getting to know the family. But then suddenly, it was like she could no longer associate with them at all. And this kind of thing, it's not something that just happened to Tamron. These women did it to other people too, people who simply cared. People who cared about the women, cared about their well-being, who just wanted them to be happy and to realize they didn't have to stay in an unhappy situation. Yet those people, they've never been allowed back in. They've never reunited with anyone in the family. And I just want to say this about Meri. I know she gets a lot of backlash. I know that some of the kids have alleged abuse against her. And I don't condone that. I don't support any of that. But I also want to acknowledge what people who know Meri personally have shared, that she has done a lot of work on herself. She's really grown, and many of the beliefs she used to hold, she doesn't anymore. After she and Kody got divorced, Meri began to embrace life in new ways. She started forming relationships with people who, in the past, she wouldn't have been allowed to associate with. When she was in the cult, for instance, she never would have been allowed to have a friend who was gay, or a black friend, or even a male friend. She wouldn't have had exposure to people of different religions, ethnicities, or sexualities. But she was one of the first in the family to truly support her child, Leon, who first came out as gay and has since transitioned. Meri was ride or die for Leon. When Kody and Robyn didn't accept Leon, that was the real breaking point for Meri. Now, I don't know if Meri will ever publicly say that, especially because Leon doesn't want Meri to speak about them publicly, and Meri respects that. I think that's beautiful. I really do. And with that willingness to do what's uncomfortable, Meri has gone places that others in the family never have. She did a podcast with Rachel Uckadel. Rachel runs the Misunderstood podcast. I've actually talked to Rachel a few times. She's really sweet. We were supposed to do a collab, but I got so busy I couldn't. Still, Meri going on Rachel's podcast? That's a huge move. Rachel's life experiences are very different from Meri's, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's just that for someone like Meri, stepping into a space like that, it's really outside the norm. But she did it. She's also done interviews in places that I honestly don't think other family members would be comfortable doing. And in that, she's breaking the grip Kody had over her. So, when I told you a few days ago that Meri seems like she's on her revenge tour, this is what I meant. Her decision to go back and talk with Tamron? That's a huge statement. Tamron had been part of their lives. She was there when everything in the family was falling apart. She saw what was happening. And then, she was shut out. And now, with Tamron saying Meri is finally going to open up about why she left Kody, it really feels like Tamron wanted to have that conversation way back in 2015. And now, finally, the door's open. It's like, okay, you're done. Now, let's talk. I don't know exactly what Meri's going to say, but here's what I will say. It saddens me to think how much control Kody had over these women. He decided who they could speak to, who was considered safe, and who wasn't. He was so strict about it, about who they saw, who they communicated with, what they did. And part of the reason Meri was ostracized by the family for so long, it's because she stopped following those rules. She started living her own life outside the family. And while she may have stayed loyal on the show and kept the secrets, there was this other side of her that was rejected, because internally, she wasn't following the script anymore. So Meri going back now, having this conversation with Tamron, that is monumental. And if I were to compare it to anything, I'd say this moment for Meri is like what it would mean for Christine to reconnect with her Aunt Kristen. Because back in season 6, when they went to UCLA, Kristen talked about how men in polygamy often treat women poorly. She shared how she had felt suicidal when her husband took another wife. She just wanted to scoop Christine up and help her see there was more to life, that she didn't have to stay in something that wasn't making her happy. Kristen wasn't fighting against the family. She was fighting for them, for their happiness. She knew that if they got to the other side, they'd finally understand what she was trying to show them. And now, Christine has found that happiness. She's found love. And yet, she's still never reconnected with Kristen. And I get it, Kristen was involved in lawsuits. She advocated for victims. She was even going to testify in a case Kody was also involved in. She stood her ground, and she genuinely cared about those women. But the show, the narrative, it painted her as the villain. Just like I'm sure Tamron was cast aside for the same reason. So, for Meri to do this? It's amazing. Honestly, I'd be overjoyed to see Christine do something similar with her aunt. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but you get what I mean. I'm really proud of Meri. And yes, I'm emotional. I don't even know why, but I am. I guess because it's just hard. It's hard to go back to a place where you were told it was unsafe, where you believed someone was a threat, only to realize later they were never the problem. Tamron wasn't the threat. Kody made her seem like the threat. Kody forced his wives to block out women who truly cared about them, who were trying to help. He turned those women into villains when he was the one doing the actual damage. That's evil. So I'm glad Tamron is speaking out now. She deserves to be heard. Her episode airs today, so check your local listings. I don't have it in my area. But let me know your thoughts. And if you haven't already, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.